Hello, my name is 환산스님, and this is Sun Meditation in English. Once again, whatever we've been doing, whatever's been on our minds, let's put all of that stuff down and let's enter into guided meditation together right now. And let's stay focused completely and exclusively on our meditation practice for the entire course of this program. So why don't we begin? First, please assume proper meditation posture. Now, for today's program, I would like to go a little bit deeper into the practical mechanics of performing sun meditation, as well as the kind of attitude or mindset that we need to bring to it. In our posture, we really want to fully occupy our bodies. Really be aware, have a global awareness of our body, and just remove as much tension as you possibly can. At this point, the reference points of the posture should be familiar. Placing your right hand, the edge of your right palm against your abdomen, placing your left hand on top, keeping your thumbs in an elegant rainbow arc. And once again, I would like to remind you to keep your chin tucked in very nicely, to elongate your spine. This is very important, I believe, for modern people, because so many of us in our workplaces and in our study places work in front of computers, and the tendency is that we get our upper back becomes hunched as we stare into the computer screen. We take the form almost of a question mark. And so by tucking in the chin, which doesn't seem like much, that's a corrective, and we can find the natural curve of our spine. And once again, try to align the crown of your head with your perineum, with the tip of your nose aligned above your belly button, and with your ears aligned above your shoulders. If you, as I've mentioned before, if you make micro adjustments at a certain point, you'll feel like your spine or your neck kind of clicks into place, and it'll almost feel as if there's a charge running through your spine, and your spine will straighten naturally, and the posture will become somewhat easier to maintain. The classic metaphor that's used for how to know whether you're doing the posture properly or not is illustrated through the idea of imagine that there is a thread that connects from the crown of your head to the ceiling. And your body hangs from that thread. So there is an unbroken, even line from the ceiling, down the thread, through the crown of your head, down your spine, all the way to your tailbone. You should feel as if your entire body has become weightless and is just hanging off of that thread. Now, be careful of holding tension in your shoulders. You should just be draped along that thread, draping down in a kind of almost like a cascade. So loose and so relaxed is your body. When you can feel that kind of lightness and stability and balance, your mind will be that much clearer and calm, and it will be much, much easier to hold this posture for longer periods. You'll find that your limbs don't fall asleep as easily, and there's less pain. And remember again to place the tip of your tongue against the roof of your mouth. And from here we can begin preparation breathing. So once again, in preparation breathing, we breathe in through the nose, completely fill our chests, hold until we become mildly uncomfortable, and then release all of that air through our mouth in one explosive outburst. So together, inhale, hold, and then exhale. On the exhale, fully exhaust your lungs. Really feel that you're emptying out your lungs. And as you empty out your lungs, imagine that you're just blowing away all of your extraneous thoughts and feelings and sort of clearing out the internal space of your body and your mind. Now, as we've continued to broadcast this program, please continue to stay in a meditative state. Viewers have been giving us a considerable amount of feedback, and sometimes they ask important questions. The first is that some people, for whatever reason, are very uncomfortable in this seated posture, which is formally called the Half-Lotus Position. And so I've been asked whether this is absolutely necessary to sit this way for meditation. Now, tradition tells us that this is considered to be the most effective and efficient way of meditating. It is the easiest to develop concentrative power, and it's the most efficient in terms of you can hold it for a long time with minimal expenditure of energy. But the fact is, for whatever reason, we may not be in the right physical condition to do this posture. And so in past episodes, I have described ways to meditate in a chair. And for the sake of this viewer who wrote in, I would like to review that we can sit in the seated position of sitting in a chair. So for today, for the first half of today's program, I will deliver these teachings from that position. So we're going to sit in a chair like this. You want the seat of the chair to be firm. And you want to be able to sit so that your knees are about right angles and your feet reach the floor and are laying flat on the floor in a relaxed way, relaxed and natural. You don't want your feet to be raised and dangling, nor do you want the seat to be so low that you don't know whether to pull in your feet or kick them out. Okay? So you want to be sitting like this, and this leg position is the only substantially different thing from the formal seated meditation posture. From here on in, everything is the same. One thing though that you need to be careful is that don't lean into the back of the chair if the chair has a back. You want your spine to be freestanding. You also don't want wheels on the bottom of the chair because it's easy to slip, and you don't want the chair to be too spongy or springy. Otherwise, you'll sink into the chair in an uneven or uncomfortable way. Okay? So you want a rigid, firm, stable chair that's adjusted to your height so that you can sit naturally in this position. And then from here, everything else is the same. Tuck your right hand, the palm of your right hand into your abdomen. Put your left hand on top. Let your thumb tips meet. Tuck in your chin. Tongue tip against the roof of your mouth. Eyes looking forward. Shoulders relaxed. And this is also an effective position to meditate in. Now, if you compare the two, seated, on a meditation mat as opposed to seated in a chair, most likely you'll find, as long as you don't have any kind of physical issues, most likely you'll find that even so, the meditation mat posture is somehow more stable. But this is a good way to meditate for those of us who are not yet comfortable in the posture or find for whatever reason that the posture is simply impossible to maintain. Okay? So from here we'll enter into abdominal breathing. Okay, in abdominal breathing, we breathe exclusively through the nose, and we breathe as if the air is going down into our abdomen. Now, for those of us who have become used to this form of breathing, what we want to really do is try to keep our attention always on the movement of our abdomen, of our lower abdomen. And if we're good at that, try to keep our attention in the inner space of our abdomen. The dantian, the so-called energy center of our body, is considered to be about 2 to 3 inches, maybe 2 inches, 3 to 4 centimeters below our navel and in the direct center of our body. And if your body becomes very still and you become used to this posture and you're mentally and physically you become very quiet inside, you will be able to sense that space. You're able to feel that space. And you can put your attention there, and the longer you put your attention there, you'll begin to feel the effects of this breathing at a much more profound and subtle level. So why don't we try to do that? So with proper seated posture, we inhale, and as we inhale, we fill our abdomen from the inside, pushing our belly button out. Then hold, then exhale. Once again, inhale, hold, and then exhale. As our body calms, our breathing should become naturally longer and softer and smoother. And now in tandem with this posture and this breathing, we will begin our hwadu. So once again, breathe in, hold, and all together on the out breath, 1, 2, 3, imoko. For viewers who are meditating alone at home, it's helpful at the beginning level to actually pronounce these words out loud. It helps us focus our minds on the hwadu and on the doubt that the hwadu produces. It should feel in the course of meditative experience that the hwadu, the question, has become one with your breath and is emerging from your energy center. This is obviously biologically, it may not be a literal description, but experientially, it is a very exact description of how it should feel. You should feel literally as if it's not your head that's asking the question, but deep down in this dantian, in this energy center, as if the question is being emitted from there and felt there. Now, the number one issue for all beginning meditators and even intermediate and advanced meditators is the difficulty is in staying focused on the imoko hwadu during the duration of a meditation session. Very honest beginning meditators will say, I can't even stay on the focus of it in actually saying those 3 syllables, imoko, in the course of one out-breath. In the course of one out-breath, I'm already thinking of 100 different things. So how am I ever going to get focused? And now the Sun Buddhist tradition tells us very specifically that we're unable to focus because we have not yet been able to create the appropriate state of spiritual consciousness, which is called, in the Sun tradition, the 3 imperatives. These are 3 mindsets or 3 states of consciousness that are needed for us to perform meditation properly. Now, the first of the 3 imperatives is called great faith. Typically, when we think of faith, we think in terms of, in the modern context, we usually think of it in terms of as a belief. So I believe, in the case of Buddhism, I believe in Buddha. And this idea is that you believe in something that's external to yourself, a source of power or truth or reality that is somehow outside of our consciousness. But the Sun Buddhist take on faith is quite different. Faith within the Sun Buddhist tradition means faith, a certainty and unshakable conviction that I am already Buddha. I am Buddha. Now that sounds like a simple thing to say, but when you examine that I am Buddha very carefully, it's actually hard to understand what that means. When we say I, well, what does that mean? Does it mean my personality, my body, my consciousness? And what does Buddha mean for that matter? So we want to be very specific in understanding what that means to believe I am Buddha. When we say I, the pronoun I is referring to that thing within us which generates thought. That thing, the root and source of our consciousness, that thing within us that experiences emotions. That thing within us that sees through the eyes, hears through the ears, responds to the call of its name. We are asking what that thing is literally when we say imoko. The most amazing thing is that thing that is the agent of all of our experience. In Buddhism, the so-called protagonist of our actions, the actor at the center of our actions, that thing is Buddha. The source of our consciousness is enlightened Buddha nature. And that is what we're trying to discover, to confirm, to awaken to penetrate. There are many ways of saying it. That is what we're trying to become enlightened to. That thing within us is Buddha. When we speak of Buddha in the Sun meditative tradition, we are not talking about the historical figure. We're not talking about an anthropomorphic mythological figure. We are talking about the self of ourselves. And so it is in fact Buddha that goes in search of Buddha. So in Sun Buddhism, they say, I am in search of myself. The protagonist within me is in search of the protagonist. So this is what it means to have great faith in Buddhism. And this is not just an intellectual belief. It is a deep-seated, experienced conviction and certainty. It is what leads people to go looking for themselves, to gather in places like this, or meditation centers, or to buy books on Buddhism. It is the thing within us that questions itself. What is this? What am I? What is the thing that I call I? And we go in search of the answer to that. To know that that thing is Buddha, that the thing that's searching is itself the thing that we're trying to get enlightened to, is considered great faith. And we need to understand that very carefully. And we need to generate this great faith as powerfully, intensely, and as purely as we can. Now, when we attain the state of great faith, then we go to the second imperative, the second spiritual state of consciousness, which is called, I will translate in English, great indignation. And what great indignation is a sense of existential and spiritual outrage that all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and enlightened masters and enlightened sages in history have already become enlightened, have actualized their infinite, unlimited spiritual power, and are now using their wisdom and compassion to deliver all the unenlightened sentient beings in the universe, and I'm still stuck here unenlightened, in spite of the fact that I know that I am Buddha. And this state, great indignation, is often compared to a state of anger. It's not actually an emotion, but it's often compared to a state of anger, and it has been described by my teacher, Sun Master Songdang, as like being profoundly offended, that you have been insulted or cursed at in such a way that you just can't let it go. You are utterly incensed. You cannot sleep, you cannot eat. All you can think of is getting back at the person. It completely possesses you. And this is, of course, a metaphor. The state of great indignation is not an actual state of hostility, but it is most easily likened to that. And the tradition tells us that without great indignation, we will not have the courage to commit our lives to this practice. Along the way, through exhaustion, through pain, through fear, through distraction, we'll give up. It is only great indignation that arises from our great faith that will give us the fuel, the power, the energy, the resolve to take this practice to its natural end in enlightenment. And when we've achieved great faith and great indignation, then we are able to attain accomplish the third imperative, which is great doubt. Once again, doubt is not a state of intellectual skepticism. Doubt is the state of intense questioning that we bring to bear upon the Hwadu Imoko. Now, as beginning meditators, when we learn this as a kind of procedure that we're kind of struggling to follow along. But in the state of great doubt, it's not that we force ourselves to concentrate on this question, on this formula, Imoko, in our minds. The question becomes alive and it completely fills us. It possesses us, it completely permeates our minds and our bodies, is all that's left to us. And the way it's described in the Sun tradition is you can eat a bowl of rice without ever having swallowed a grain. And what that means is even while you're eating, and eating is a time when one is easily distracted by the flavors, you don't know that you're eating. All that's in your mind, all that's at the forefront of your consciousness is imoko. What is this? What is this thing that I call I? And they also say you can walk 1,000 miles and not have taken one step. And once again, you could be walking along all day long as the wandering sun monks of the past did, but you're not aware of it. You're not aware of the fatigue in your body. You're not aware of the distance traversed. In your mind, there's only imoko, radiantly filling your consciousness. So this is the description of great doubt. And this is where we're trying to get to. And the tradition tells us if we are not feeling, we have to have all three of these imperatives. And that the necessity to have all three spiritual states of mind is illustrated through the metaphor of a three-legged pot or kettle or stove. If you take any one of those legs away, the pot or stove or kettle will just tip over. So we need to have all three: great faith, great indignation, and great doubt. And we can use this teaching to gauge where we are. If we are not feeling great faith, great indignation, and great doubt, then that means that our true spiritual practice has not yet begun. Now, most likely for us beginning meditators, we'll feel like, well then, I don't feel those three things, what should I do? And here there's nothing to worry about. It is said that meditation itself, consistent, patient, and unyielding meditation practice will bring us to the three imperatives. Meditation will cleanse and purify and transform our consciousness, and the three imperatives will naturally be expressed. Remember, all of this is based on the teaching that we are already Buddha, and meditation helps to reveal that truth and reality within us. So all we need to do is meditate and not give up, and we will get there. So this is one of the most important core teachings of the Sun Buddhist tradition. Now, today's topic for contemplation and meditation is the question, what do I do when I feel betrayed by someone who is important to me? When I feel profoundly disappointed? When I feel that I have been willfully deceived or used or manipulated or exploited? Now, as I continue to dialogue with both my international and domestic Korean friends, this is an issue that comes up, especially among the younger ones. As they graduate from school and go into work in professional workplaces, often they are startled by the degree of competitiveness and the at times ruthless behavior that we can sometimes see around us. And in some cases, they go in there with very sincere intent to use their talent and their effort and their commitment to rise in the ranks of an organization, only to find that very unfair tactics have been used against them, or that their superiors are taking advantage of them in an unfair way, and they find themselves deeply embittered by the experience. They feel betrayed, even if they're not personally close with the people. In the cases where you are personally close, married spouses, longtime friends, family members, the sense of betrayal can be even more shocking, more painful, and in fact traumatic. One thing that when we think of betrayal, I think it's very similar in the sense to a process of grieving. There are the very famous 5 stages of grieving: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. We seem to go through something like that in trying to recover from a deep emotional wound like betrayal. And one of the things that we are often taught or told to do is just let it go. Just let go. Okay? Don't think about it. Just drop it. And this idea of letting go, I actually, as a concept, I think it's very elegant and very simple, and it makes sense, because even from a Buddhist perspective, because at the end, we are the ones who are obsessing over our thoughts and emotions. But I do believe on the experiential level, on the level of actually experiencing the kinds of pain and trauma that come up during some experience of betrayal, I don't think that it's an entirely appropriate expression, because the truth is, when we experience that kind of emotional pain, it doesn't feel like we're holding it in our hands of our own choice and we can just let go. What it really feels like is it's rising up from deep within our hearts, deep within our bodies, and it won't let us go. It's stuck inside of us, even though we want to, at times literally vomit it out, even though we want to just at times take a knife or something and cut it out. It's stuck in us. It's got, its tentacles wrapped around us, and we just can't get away from it. No matter what we do, the memories come up. And we can't run away because they're coming up from inside of us. And so no matter how much we may think let go, we have no procedure for doing it. And it's not a good description of what we're going through. So what can Sun Buddhist teachings and practices offer for a situation like that? Why don't we take a break here, and when we get back, we will discuss the possible answers to that question. Now, in our little break period, I was just told that another question has come in about meditation practice. And so before continuing with today's topic, I would like to address that question. The question that was asked by one of our viewers is that when they sit, one side of their body hurts, somewhere to the ribs, and they're wondering if it's okay, and why is it happening only on one side? Most likely, most people are not perfectly symmetrical. Most people favor one hand or one side of their body, just as we write with one hand or throw a ball with one hand. So when you sit, you'll most likely find that one side of your body is more flexible. So it might be easier to raise your right foot on top of your left lap or your left foot on top of your right lap. And because of the imbalance in strength and resiliency between our left and our right sides, it is entirely possible that one side will hurt much more than the other side, or only one side will hurt. Now, the best thing that we can do at this point is try to sit in front of a mirror. Try to hold the posture as naturally and accurately as possible, and observe yourself very carefully in the mirror. And if you find that you're leaning in one direction or another, or that you're somehow out of balance, maybe your shoulders or the tilt of your head or the entire tilt of your upper body, then there could be a problem with the alignment of your body. And then at that point, you have some options. You could go to a physical therapist, or you could learn certain types of correctional yoga. You need to be the best judge of that. But in most cases, it's just an adjustment period, and one side will adapt to the posture more quickly than the other side. But we should always be careful, and always, especially at the beginning of learning this, really be careful about each point, each part of the meditation posture, and try to get everything right. And also, don't overdo it. Finally, even if it is uncomfortable on one side, you really want to sit equal amounts of time with each foot on top. So if you sit for, say, 10 minutes with your right foot on top, then the next time you want to sit for 10 minutes with your left foot on top. You really want to keep things even in terms of how much you use each leg in the top position of this posture. Because if you favor one side that's naturally better at it, you can begin to affect your pelvic alignment, which will cause all sorts of problems. So at the beginning, it pays to be very, very cautious. Okay, so to the viewer who sent me that question, I hope this satisfies your concerns, and if you have any more questions, please feel free to contact us again. Now, once again, we return to the topic of what do we do when we feel profoundly betrayed or disappointed by someone. And I said that although we are often told to let go of these negative emotions, memories, and thoughts that often plague us after some type of terrible kind of interpersonal event, we find that it's very difficult. We find that even though we want to let go, those thoughts, those emotions, those painful memories don't let go of us. They force themselves upon us, and they play inside our heads like a movie scene on an endless loop. So from the Buddhist perspective, there's also, within some Buddhism, there's also that phrase of letting go. And that's sort of a theoretical description of what we're supposed to do when we're encountering difficult mind states. But I believe that in the case of us beginning practitioners, the better way to think about it is in terms of redirecting our attention. To be attached to something so that you cannot let go of it means that we are obsessively directing our attention at a recurring thought or emotion. So the problem with our attention is we always need to point it at something. So you just can't let go of an unwanted object of attention and not know where you're going to put your attention in the next moment. Your attention has to have somewhere to go. You can't just let go of something and point your attention at nothing. So from the point of view of this practice, we always have a healthy, cleansing, purifying target for our attention, which is our hwadu, imoko, and our posture, and our breathing. That's where we put the attention. That's how you let go. Meditating itself is the act of letting go of whatever your mind happened to be on just prior to meditating. It is letting go, it is severing, it is putting things in the past in the most literal way possible, in a moment-by-moment way. And what we do in meditation, especially for beginning meditators who are struggling with recurring negative thoughts and emotions, is we have to redirect our attention over and over and over again. That is the practice of it. Now, what we will find when we're experiencing very painful emotions and thoughts is that we're trying to redirect our attention anyway. We'll either be complaining about it, or we'll go watch a movie, or we'll go find something to eat. We are looking for some other target to attract our attention away from whatever's bothering us. Now, the problem with those kinds of targets, whether it's reading a magazine or going on the internet or talking with your friend or whatever, is that when you go after those targets, what you're doing is you're creating a chain reaction of mental associations in your mind. You look at this thing, this other thing, to forget whatever happened, and this other thing makes you think of yet another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and off you go in an uncontrolled chain reaction that will lead you inevitably back to the thing that was bothering you. So what you want to do, the only alternative from the Sun Buddhist tradition perspective, the only alternative is to turn your line of attention to the source of attention itself. And I have described this on this program before, to turn the light of our attention back upon itself. And that is what we do when we do imoku. And when we do that, we begin to calm ourselves, to purify ourselves, to cleanse ourselves. And by cleansing and purifying our consciousness, we speed up the healing process. Speeding up the healing process means we may not be able to entirely escape our painful emotions, but we can significantly reduce their severity. We may not be able to recover instantly from whatever is bothering us, but we will recover much more quickly than if we had not meditated at all. This is the gift of healing. That is the natural side effect of meditation. I've mentioned on this program the purpose, the ultimate purpose of meditation is not healing, it is enlightenment, which is in a sense the ultimate healing. But we don't have to make healing a conscious goal of meditation because, as I say again and again, it happens naturally. Now, one of the difficult things about a situation in which you're in a state of inner turmoil is that we're so used to searching for easy distraction from our painful emotions that we will find it hard to sit. We're constantly wanting to be getting up again. And the reason why we find it hard to sit is once we start sitting, those emotions start coming up again. But this is how we learn how to deal with painful emotions in the midst of them. While they're coming up, to let them flow past. Letting them flow past means keeping your attention firmly on your hwadu. As the emotion literally rises, abides, and then disintegrates and disappears. You just have to wait. It's just a wave that's passing through, and it won't do anything as long as you don't direct the energy of your attention at it. So this is how meditation automatically helps us in our emotional difficulties. And the only thing that we need to be careful of in the case of a betrayal is that, or a profound disappointment, is that when we feel betrayed by someone or somehow profoundly mistreated by them, it's not just that we lost someone who was close to us. Our life narrative has changed. The story of our own lives has suddenly been changed. Until this time, I thought we were friends, or I thought we were close, or I thought we loved each other. It turns out what I knew of my life was a lie. And so my own life has to be rewritten. And we'll know that healing from this kind of event is has a different set of difficulties than in normal cases of emotional pain. Now, one of the most common sort of responses to extreme disappointment in other people is a temptation to lose faith in people in general. A temptation to think that, well, everyone is like this. Everyone does this. at one time or another. You just don't know when a person will turn on you. You don't really know what a person feels about you. You don't know how long that person will feel that way about you. So what are we to do? Do I live in a state, in a perpetually defensive posture? Do I never open my heart to someone? Do I never trust anyone? What are the alternatives when we feel this kind of, in a sense, reasonable mistrust and anxiety about the intentions of other people? Now, the Sun Buddhist take on this is slightly different. The temptation is to feel like, well, I have to, and I will describe that worldview through the metaphor of a great mirror. Sun Buddhist masters teach us that what appears to be an objectively, independently existing external reality or universe that surrounds us, that's what it appears to be, but in actuality it is a great mirror. And our consciousness is reflected in that mirror. So what we mistake to be an external reality is simply the reflection of the contents of our own consciousness. So the contents of our consciousness, when they're manifested, strike that mirror and are reflected back to us as the things that we see and hear and feel and taste and smell and so forth. So that's kind of a very abstract and difficult metaphysical description. But the point that's being made through this metaphor is that my consciousness determines the reality that I experience. My consciousness determines my experience of reality. And the great hope that this tradition tells us is that I don't have to go out and try to change how other people behave. That is a doomed project. People are independent. They will not all listen to me. Instead of doing that, what I can do is do meditation, purify my consciousness. And as my consciousness is purified, the reality that is reflected back to me, the reality that I experience, will likewise be purified. If I experience the world as a dark and negative place, that is only evidence that the contents of my mind are dark and negative and in need of purification and transformation. And if I see the world as a beautiful place, full of light and radiance and love, then that is a pretty good measure of where I've come in the growth and evolution of my consciousness. This is a very profound statement to make about our ability to influence our own lives and our own reality. And I urge all of our viewers and all of our participants here to put it to the test. The idea is that if we meditate, our experience of reality will grow better and better and better. And they even make the claim that the actual way that people treat us, the actual events that occur around us, will become more positive, more luminous as our consciousness grows in that direction. This is an amazing statement to make, I admit, and what I would like to do is recommend and challenge and invite everybody to give it a shot yourself. You don't have to be an expert meditator. Meditate with great sincerity and concentration and clarity for even 5 minutes or 10 minutes and see what the world looks like right after meditation. Almost inevitably, most people will find that it feels like almost like the surface of their eyes have been washed clean. Colors are more vivid. Sounds are more subtle and resonant. Our experience of the world has changed. Our perception of the world changes. We tend not to think dark and negative things. Things don't look threatening. Things seem to appear just as they are, vivid and in many ways wondrous. So we can put it to the test even tonight, right now, through this meditation. Just meditate with as much intensity and sincerity as you can, and then just look at the world around you and see how it looks, see how it feels. So this is an invitation that I would like to make. And finally, the last teaching that I would like to share with you is that the sun meditation, the journey of sun meditation practice is often described as being like a deep dive into the ocean to get to a treasure or a pearl on the ocean floor. The idea is that treasure or pearl is our Buddha nature. But as we go down into the depths of the ocean, we encounter frightening creatures that we have never seen before, sharks, whales, squids, or legendary creatures, dragons, whatever. And if we do not have the three imperatives that I discussed at the beginning of this program, great faith, great indignation, and great doubt, the terror, the anxiety, the fear that's produced by going into these depths will turn us back, and we won't be able to get to the bottom. Now, what's interesting about this metaphor is that that ocean is our own mind. And when we meditate, we encounter ourselves, our own true nature, in the most vivid way possible. We are standing, almost like standing naked in front of a mirror. We see the monsters within ourselves, the demons within ourselves, the perversities that we all contain deep within the recesses of our conscious and unconscious minds. But we also sense the Buddha nature through our meditation. And so we are able to see an objective view of the contents of our own mind. And as you meditate, you begin to lose the illusion that the contents of your own mind are somehow better than that of your neighbors. When people behave badly, it is just the negative karma within their minds, the hidden habits, appetites, emotional problems, whatever, that have been released. But when you meditate, we begin to know that we all have them. And we also begin to know that when we see their negative behavior, that's not all that they are, because they have their pearl too at the bottom of their ocean floor. And so we can begin to feel compassion for people who on the surface may not look like they deserve it, not because we know them so well, but because we have become to know our own human mind so well. So this compassion is not based on emotional sentiment or some kind of idealism. It is based on clear insight into the depths of our human mind. So in that sense, it is as real and objective and as cool-headed as can be. And in this way, we can gain an unshakable and progressively more powerful compassion and wisdom in the course of our meditation that can help us deal with the many disappointments that we will encounter in living in this world, where we are all both Buddha, but also possessed of negative karma. And that's the last image that I will share with you, is that in Sun Buddhism, the question is, what is a human being? What is a sentient being? And the answer to that is, it is a Buddha who is bound in the chains of negative karma. We contain both the Buddha nature and the negative karma. And when we can gain that balanced view of what a human being is, then we can look at people realistically and objectively and honestly, but also with hope and faith in them. So this is the last teaching that I would like to share with you for this program, and I hope that it's as helpful to you as it has been to me. The world will appear dark if we do not practice. But it's not because the world is dark, it's because we're not taking care of our minds. So I urge, once again, all of our viewers and our studio audience participants to transform our own lives and our experience of reality through the gift of meditation. Thank you very much. And once again, I close with the traditional Buddhist greeting. May we all attain the Buddha.